Sometimes we have a crazy, overwhelming space that needs to be decluttered, and we don't know where to begin or what to do. This could be an attic, like I'm sitting in now. It could be a garage, your basement, a closet. It could be your bedroom. Today, I am sharing 5 foolproof ways to declutter your crazy, overwhelming space. I consider a space to be overwhelming if anytime I think about it, I feel dread. And maybe it's been that way for years. Maybe it's been weighing on your mind and you have tried to ignore it. But that's okay because the tips I'm sharing today will work for anyone. These tips will break it down into manageable chunks. You will be able to tackle that project, I promise. And nothing I'm sharing is going to take us more than 15 minutes at a time. I have a very strong belief that you can get anything done in your whole life if you just dedicate 15 minutes of your time to it and do it in manageable chunks. So that's what we're doing here. I've been Swedish death cleaning my attic. If you can believe it, this space was packed to the max. You could not even walk around up here. And now I'm filming a whole video. I've got space behind me, space all around me. You won't believe how much progress I made in 15-minute increments just over the course of a couple of months. My attic has been the space where I'm just stuffing things up here, right? Like I'm taking things out of the kitchen and moving things around in my house and I'm like, shove it upstairs. We don't have to worry about it. Just stick it up there and we'll deal with it later. Well, the time came that it needed to be dealt with because I ended up with a crazy unusable space. When you have an overwhelming space, the thing that I like to start with, and the first thing that I do is I actually start with the largest thing in the room, whether it's a piece of furniture, maybe it's the largest box. I just pick the biggest thing because I think that when you're looking at the space, it kind of gives you a quick win, right? Like you pick the biggest thing, you pull it out and you deal with it. And then you have a lot more space freed up because it was the biggest thing in the room. And I do think that the overwhelming spaces that a lot of us have in our homes usually do have large things in them because I find that they are oftentimes big closets or big basements, places where you have a lot of space to store stuff. And so when you get that big item out and you've dealt with that first item, you kind of feel motivated to keep going. If you're enjoying this kind of content, I would love for you to click that subscribe button below. It is free and I make videos twice a week on enhancing your home and simplifying your life. Now comes the sorting part. And no matter what space you're decluttering, you're going to have to sort. I think this is like why people hate decluttering and why people don't want to do it, because you do need to kind of think about what you're doing with your things. What I like to do is I grab 2 things. I will grab a trash bag and I will grab a donations bin or a donations bag. I like to use a black trash bag. I've said this before, but I've got 3 kids and whenever I put things into the donations bag and they can see what I'm donating, then they like to pull stuff out of the bag. So I just take a trash bag and they can't see through it. Nobody's taking anything out. For the garbage bag, you may think, well, I don't think I have garbage up in my attic, or I don't think I have any garbage in my basement. But you do, because sometimes we save things from a long time ago and we've had them for 5, 10 years. And we thought that they were important when we started saving them, but then we come back 10 years later and we look at them and we're like, oh, I don't need this. This can definitely be trashed. I mean, if it's in good condition, you don't have to trash it, but a lot of times we saved garbage. So kind of go through the space and anything that's garbage, you are going to toss it immediately. I like to do this with garbage kind of first, because I do think that things that are clear garbage, broken things that you thought were important before, but now you look at them and you're like, that's definitely not important. I do think that requires the least brain power to get rid of so that we don't lose motivation right from the get-go. Okay, so let's talk about donations. I think it's harder to donate things in the rooms that you're currently using, like your kitchen, for example, because you have stuff in there and you think that you're using it or you think you may need it. If you're going and you've got an overwhelming space and you're trying to declutter that space, chances are you haven't been looking for the things in that space and you haven't needed the things in that space. I think it's a lot easier when you've got those spaces of storage, rooms where you've got things that you just haven't looked at in years. I think it's a lot easier to decide on if you're going to donate something. What I like to do in this case is I like to apply the lens of Swedish death cleaning. I've talked a lot about it on my channel. I've been learning about it over the last maybe 6 months or so. I am doing it in my attic. What Swedish death cleaning is, the process of eliminating unnecessary items from your home so that your loved ones don't have to do it when you're gone. Kind of morbid, but the reason why I love thinking about Swedish death cleaning and my stuff is because I actually use it as a lens to apply to my items that I'm storing and my items that I have in these overwhelming spaces. And the way that I do that, I simply ask, will anyone want to keep this after I'm gone? Like, will anyone want this? I mean, I could literally pull something from here. So I've got this. This is like a piggy bank. Will anyone want this after I'm dead and gone? I don't think so. To me, this is like a very easy way and a very quick way to make a decision. I think that having an easy and quick way to make a decision is the way to go. And honestly, like anything that you're quickly making a decision on and you're using this lens and it's in good condition, that can go right into the donation box. You want to put all of your donations into a box that's donatable. You don't want to put them in something that you want to keep, because then what happens? You have to go through it a second time because, you're trying to donate it. So you end up going through it a second time and then you end up second guessing things and you end up pulling out things. Don't do that. Just put it in something that you can give away. So now we're going to talk about mess. I have decluttered in a variety of different ways. I think a lot of people are taught to declutter by removing everything from a space and removing an entire room or an entire closet and then seeing what you have and then only putting back what you want to keep. I don't do this. I actually don't recommend you do this. You can do this if you think that this would be good for you. I find it overwhelming. I do not want to have one overwhelming room and then I take everything out of it and then I've got two overwhelming spaces that I need to deal with. I like to keep the mess minimal and just work within that space. There is the expression, I'm sure you've heard of it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and that is what we were going to do here. Do not delay your progress thinking that you just need to get it all done at once. You do not need to do that. You can start anytime, any way you want. Thinking about eating this elephant one bite at a time, we're gonna look around the space and look around the room, and we are gonna decide what area of the room are we gonna do first. Honestly, if you don't even know where to start, just put your hand over your eyes and point somewhere and go there and start there. It could be a corner of the room and that's the one bite you're gonna take today. Or maybe it's one box and you're gonna deal with that one box. And thinking about applying this like one bite at a time with the no mess method, you're gonna go through that one box, you're gonna do everything as it needs to be done right there. You're gonna go through the box, you're gonna take the things that are garbage, put them in the garbage. Take the things that are for donations, put them in the donations bin. If things belong in another room, you're gonna put them in that other room. And before you know it, that whole box will be done. So if you've got an overwhelming space, most likely it contains sentimental items within it. And so taking a page out of Swedish death cleaning, that is how I'm going to recommend that you deal with the sentimental items in your space. One of the things I love about Swedish death cleaning is I have kind of figured out that it's really a process for sort of deciding like what you want to keep and what you want to pass down. And the idea is you kind of curate what you want to pass down to your children or other people in your life, and you curate it now while you're alive and you're able to do it, rather than leaving it mixed with a bunch of your stuff so that people have to come and figure it out later. And I have to say, like, if you've got important things that you want to pass down, but it's mixed in with like a bunch of junk and garbage, no one's going to know that it's there. I've talked about this a little bit before on my channel, and I've had several people commenting saying like, we will get donations from people after like a loved one has passed away, and then we'll look in the donations and there will be like really important letters, files, jewelry, just things that like people were saving for their loved ones, but their loved ones didn't know. So I don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to be in that situation. So what I think that the best thing to do here is looking at Swedish death cleaning. And one of the things that they recommend is to take a box, and you can call it like a memory box. This is going to be a box that you are going to specifically curate of things that you want to pass on. And you could do a box per person. You could do just one box depending on, how much stuff that you have. And you determine like how big that box is, and however much you can fit in that box, that's what you keep. Obviously, if your overwhelming space doesn't have sentimental items, you can skip this step, but chances are it probably may. I did want to talk a little bit about paper, because I know that paper is one of the things that really trips people up when they're trying to declutter. The reason is, you saved it for a reason and you think like, well, I need to look at it. I need to make sure it's not important. I need to make sure that I still don't need this. And so paper can really slow you down and trip you up when you're trying to declutter. What I like to do in this case is I will set aside a box and I will put all the paper in it to deal with at some point, or maybe just like a pile, and then you deal with it when you feel ready. That way, if you're going through your room and you're coming across paper, you don't have to deal with it in the moment. You just stick it in the paper pile to be dealt with at a time when you're ready for that paper. This makes it a lot faster, and you're not having to read things at the same time as you are having to make decisions about things. What I find with decluttering is sometimes I'm super motivated to tackle my decluttering, and then other times I just have no desire. In these cases, I like to dangle carrots so that I can get things done. I do this in all aspects of my life, but I think it's really helpful with decluttering because decluttering is one of those things where you really do need the motivation and the discipline to do it regularly because, again, we're not doing it all at once. We kind of have to split it up and do it over time. So when I'm feeling unmotivated, some of the things that I'll do, I will tell myself, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes and I'm going to get this decluttering done. And then afterwards, I can have a bowl of ice cream. Or maybe there's a podcast I've been wanting to listen to and I will just play that while I'm doing the decluttering, or play some music, whatever you can to just make it a little more enjoyable for you. Because it doesn't have to be like a truly unenjoyable activity. I actually feel like once I get started decluttering, it's almost like exercise. Once I get started, I'm like, well, this is great. I should do this more often. I feel the same way about decluttering, and I bet you will too if you can just figure out a way to make it a little bit more enjoyable. Okay, guys, those are my tips. If you've got an overwhelming space and you don't know where to start, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter. I send monthly emails. If you're interested in getting them, I will have the link down below. I'm going to go ahead and link a video. I talked a bit about Swedish death cleaning. I think that it has a lot of useful tips. I'm going to link it here. Click on it and I will see you over there. Bye-bye.